Hello, I'm Robin Koval, President and CEO of Truth Initiative. We're the nation's largest public health organization dedicated to achieving a culture where young people reject smoking, vaping, and nicotine. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to Truth Initiative's Impact Series on Vaping Know the Truth, empowering students with the facts on e-cigarettes and tools to quit. E-cigarette use is pervasive among our nation's youth. More than 2 million teens are currently vaping. And when we look at high schoolers who vape, over 43% report using e-cigarettes almost daily. That's on 20 or more of the past 30 days. And our nation's schools have been on the front lines of the youth e-cigarette epidemic. We've all heard stories of students calling bathrooms the jewel rooms. Teachers tell us over and over that youth vaping impacts their ability to teach because of frequent class interruptions and decreased student focus. So now, as schools return to in-person learning, educators need tools to give young people the facts about e-cigarettes and to help kids who vape to quit. This is more critical than ever given the worsening youth mental health crisis. According to a recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association, youth depression and anxiety doubled during the pandemic. Research also shows that nicotine harms developing brains and negatively affect mental health by worsening symptoms of anxiety and depression. So this Truth Initiative Impact Series spotlights Vaping Know the Truth. It's a free national vaping prevention curriculum that educates students about the risks of nicotine and vaping. And we developed it with Kaiser Permanente, the American Heart Association, and social impact education innovator EverFi. We launched the program in November of 2020, and since then, over 227,000 high school students and middle school students have actively engaged in this digital peer-to-peer course that's available to schools nationwide. In addition to encouraging students to live vape-free lives, this self-administered interactive curriculum also offers resources to help young people who are using e-cigarettes to quit through Truth's first of its kind free text message quit vaping program called This Is Quitting, which is already helping nearly 400,000 youth and young adults on their quit journeys. A clinical trial published in JAMA Internal Medicine shows that This Is Quitting increased quit rates among young adults aged 18 to 24 by nearly 40%. So our panel today is going to discuss the need and how to best use this digital vaping prevention curriculum, its importance in supporting educators, especially with virtual learning in such high demand now. And we'll also have a chance to hear directly from teachers and students on how the curriculum is being used in thousands of classrooms across the country. So to help set the stage, I want to share a short video that explains how Vaping Know the Truth works.
Today, 1 in 5 high school students are vaping e-cigarettes. The Surgeon General has declared it an epidemic. Now, Truth Initiative, the nonprofit behind the nationally recognized Tobacco Prevention and Education Truth campaign, has created Vaping Know the Truth, a first-of-its-kind digital learning curriculum available free to schools nationwide. It's prevention-focused to keep students from starting. And for those who are already vaping, the curriculum links directly to This Is Quitting, the only proven effective text message program designed specifically for youth and young adults that is already helping hundreds of thousands on their journey to quit vaping. Whether in class or at home, students will complete 4 self-paced lessons. Students will learn the facts about e-cigarettes, the history of tobacco companies' manipulative marketing tactics, the dangers of nicotine addiction, and keys to self-care and quitting. Just as important as what students learn is the unique way they'll learn it. Vaping Know the Truth deploys peer-to-peer video, engaging quizzes, and a format that allows students to go at their own pace, and is delivered in Truth's authentic youth voice. The program was developed together with Kaiser Permanente and EverFi, and in collaboration with the American Heart Association, trusted voices in youth education and health. Vaping Know the Truth is already helping students across the country. Youth vaping is a problem, but we have a solution. Working together, we'll make smoking, vaping, and nicotine a thing of the past.
Our discussion today is moderated by Anya Kamenetz, an education correspondent at NPR. Anya is a recipient of a 2017 Edward R. Murrow Award for Innovation, as well as a 2015 National Award for Innovation Reporting. She's the author of several books, and her upcoming release, The Stolen Year: How COVID Changed Children's Lives and Where We Go Now, is due out in 2022. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Anya, for moderating and for leading this important discussion, and I'll send it over to you.
Robin, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really inspired to be here amongst people who are so confident about the prospect of social change and bringing real information about public health to our teenagers and our young people. We're joined today by an incredible panel. I'd like to introduce Dr. David Grossman. He leads Kaiser Permanente's social health strategy, and this means efforts to advance social health by connecting members with social services, programs, and resources to alleviate food insecurity, social isolation, and other key social needs. We're also joined by Kim Jamie Nguyen, who is EverFi's Director of Texas District Partnerships, which means she works closely with some of the largest school districts in the country to build thoughtful partnerships and educate the whole child. Kim Jamie's background's in philanthropy, and her passion is for diversity and inclusion and social justice. And then we've got Joshua Grant, who coordinates for the West Virginia Department of Education with physical education, health education, as well as driver education, working on the ground with dozens of schools and thousands of students. I'd like to start with you, David. You know, Kaiser Permanente is known to many of us across the country as a leader in the health space, but we may not know about your role in education. How has your company come in on this Vaping Know the Truth project, and why did you collaborate with Truth Initiative?
Thanks, Anya. It's really a pleasure to be here. For those of you that are not familiar with Kaiser Permanente, we're one of the country's leading healthcare providers and also nonprofit integrated health systems. We currently serve about 12.5 million people in 8 states and also in DC. At Kaiser Permanente, we're committed to health, and that means not only delivering top-notch care, but also creating communities where people can be healthy in all the places that they live, they learn, work, or play. And schools are obviously among one of the very first places where students learn the skills and also healthy behaviors that they'll need to set themselves up for a lifetime of success and also well-being. So, of course, schools are passionate about ensuring that all students succeed. And at KP, we know that success means that students, staff, and teachers are emotionally, physically, and mentally healthy. But schools really cannot address the health of their employees and their students alone. That's why Kaiser Permanente created its Thriving Schools initiative. And for years, through this initiative, Kaiser Permanente has been working with some national partners to help schools across the country become a beacon of health in their communities. As Robin mentioned in her opening remarks, youth vaping has become truly a national crisis that is playing out in our schools. More than ever, students and parents, and teachers need our help. They need tools that will resonate with America's youth about the dangers of e-cigarette use and also to reverse this pervasive vaping epidemic. So that's exactly what this no-cost, cutting-edge curriculum is all about. It's about providing teachers, staff, and students with the support that they need to thrive, both in learning and also in health. The curriculum only launched about a year ago, but there are already early signs of success, and the curriculum is effective and is also filling a critical need in school health, and most importantly, it's resonating with you. Anya, that's why Truth Initiative was the right strategic partner for Kaiser Permanente in this effort.
Thank you, David. That's so interesting. And Robin, to continue on that point, I mean, I was so intrigued when I was approached with this opportunity because I've always heard that Truth has a real secret sauce with its psychology, that it's really effective in harnessing teenagers' developmental needs to be savvy, to not be manipulated by authority figures. So how do you bring that in this new curriculum?
Well, that's a great question, Anya. Truth has always been about, speaking to young people as a peer. We don't want to ever sound like their parents, or I hate to say it on this particular webinar, like their teachers. We really always try to kind of keep three things in our mind. First and foremost, it's about giving kids the facts, and telling them things that they really need to know in a way that feels accessible to them. And that's by lifting the voices of young people and having a peer attitude, never finger wagging, any of that. Um, and just being honest. And our work is often very bold. We want it to feel like it's of the culture. I often say it needs to sound like we actually know some young people. We're not just talking at young people. And so that's always kind of a driving force. And that we find that when young people have the facts, they feel empowered to make good decisions, to push back against peer pressure, or forces that are coming at them from the culture, or I would say in this case with e-cigarettes, an industry that is actively trying to recruit them, so they need those facts. And it works. We know that 80% of young people are aware of the Truth brand. They're aligned with it. They feel connected to the brand and things it stands for. And I think even more importantly, we know through many evaluations of the Truth prevention education program, the media program, that it works. Young people who are more aware of the Truth brand and Truth messages are less likely to use tobacco. And so that's what brought us to this curriculum, and how do we take it onto the ground, into the communities, in the spaces where young people are every day. And kids really do need the facts. We did a study and asked young people, did they know whether e-cigarettes had nicotine in them? And surprisingly, two-thirds of Juul users didn't know that their products always contain nicotine. So, for kids, originally they thought this was just fun and flavors. They didn't realize what they were getting into. And by the time they found out it wasn't, unfortunately, many of them are addicted. We heard a lot of, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't think, I would never smoke. I would never want to be addicted to nicotine. They don't like the feeling. 60% of kids who vape want to stop, and they need help. And that's, part of what this curriculum does. So it's about prevention. Of course, we want kids to never start, and they need the facts to make the right choices there. But it's also essential to give kids who are vaping help to quit, and to not be judgmental about it, to not make them feel bad about something that they aren't happy that they're doing. And that's what I think is so unique about the course, in that it does combine both a prevention perspective as well as real tools. How do we help you? We offer This is Quitting, which is our digital text in quit vaping program. It's anonymous. Kids can use it on their phone. It's where they live anyway. So we provide that connection through the curriculum. And the other thing that I think is really nice about the curriculum, which is a very Truth way to do it, is it was developed in conjunction with teens from beginning to end. They were part of the process, that we put in a lot of videos, real experiences of young people to each other, what it was like for them to quit, how that, what they're doing to not become vapors. There's gamification in it. So, it can be as fun as possible, with an attitude that you'll like doing that. And we hear that from a lot of kids. And I guess the last thing I would say is, of course, this is a curriculum about vaping prevention, but it's not just about that. We know that the number one concern of young people right now, not surprisingly, is mental health. Percent of kids say they're concerned about depression, they're concerned about anxiety. So there's a whole module in the program all about self-care and wellness. It's one of the things that's so frustrating about the vaping epidemic is a lot of kids are doing it because they think it's going to help them deal with their stress and their anxiety. And of course, the very thing they're doing is making it worse. So we want to give them tools not only to understand the facts here, but what are the things that you can do, self-care, wellness, et cetera, that will actually make you feel better. So yes, I could go on and on, but I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's wonderful, Robin. I mean, these are such important life lessons that go beyond, this substance in particular, these habits and having positive ways to address mental health. Joshua, let's talk with you. You're on the ground with teachers and students in West Virginia. What are their needs around vaping prevention, quit support, and these broader mental health topics? And how does this curriculum meet those needs?
Well, thank you, Anya and Robin. Yes, obviously, there's a critical need for vaping prevention curriculum. Obviously, we're seeing that youth vaping is our biggest youth risk behavior in West Virginia. It probably is nationwide, and in West Virginia, we have to try to figure out how to way to combat that. Obviously, with prevention education, that's why modules like this, Know the Truth and Vaping, and partners with Everify really stepped up. And thank you for the supports with Kaiser Permanente and the Truth Initiative joint to make modules like this available to our teachers, not only just to obviously educate our teachers so they understand the information to tell our students, but educate our students in an interactive way. And I think, as Robin mentioned, the students are responding to that. Everify has been utilized quite a bit in our state in regards to some of their other programs, and our teachers are comfortable with their platform. So this was a perfect fit. And this vaping prevention curriculum is, as we're seeing the vaping epidemic explode here, it's just so critical that we equip our teachers with these tools free of charge, and basically equip them with this information, this up-to-date information that not only helps them provide the prevention education, but as you alluded to, the reality that our students, once they become, if they choose to vape, they're becoming addicted, and opportunities and pathways to, stop vaping.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm really glad to hear that you're finding ways and your teachers are finding ways to implement this curriculum. We know that, we're seeing all over the country right now, districts closing, take home mental health days, staff shortages, everybody's kind of stretched to the breaking point, stretched to the limit. And, how do you ensure schools are actually implementing effective health education and making room for it, considering the crunch time in the curriculum and how overstretched everybody feels? And also, can you talk about how vaping may have changed with students back in the building?
Anya, thanks for that question. Obviously, with the pandemic has brought on some stressors on our schools and our students. Our teachers are stressed out in regards to the pandemic, and so are students. And the making time for health education, is always an issue. But the nice thing about what the pandemic, I think, has brought out is the need for focus on social emotional learning and supports, and not only academic, but focus on social emotional needs. And the great thing that we've realized this here in West Virginia, and we've provided districts a lot of opportunities, funds, grant funding, and supports in regards to addressing students' social emotional and teachers' social emotional needs, and then providing also sorts of funding to address the academic supports that they need. So if anything, I would think hopefully that this situation is maybe strengthens health education in regards to specifically, and one component focusing on, the need for constant, mental health promotion, and making sure that we're all mentally healthy as much as we can, whether it be teacher-led programs or student programs. To answer your other question in regards to the reentry and how vaping has affected our students, it's an interesting question, and I actually had the opportunity to take a look at some of the data that was shown pre-pandemic and composed to now. We use the 1920 from our discipline system data. These are students caught with the vaping devices, either caught using or caught in possession of vaping. And interesting enough, our data from the 1920 and the 21-22 for the first couple months have remained the same. I think to do a little bit of a bigger dive into that data, I had an opportunity to talk with some administrators and some central office individuals, and The one thing they shared with me, which is an absolute concern, it's not overly shocking, is that the students that are using now, or that are getting caught using now, even the data is the same, and they echoed that, is that the students are reporting being addicted, or reporting needing help and couldn't stop. But initially in the 1920 year, it was a situation like Robin alluded to. They didn't know that the devices had nicotine in it, or it was a novelty, and they were just trying it out for the first time. These students that are presenting now that are getting caught with their vape devices are actually expressing concerns about they can't stop, which is obviously alarming. The good news in that is, I guess, that they're not seeing an over influx of students trying the devices for the first time. That's been reported, and I'm not sure if one administrator told me maybe the novelty is worn off a touch, or hopefully some of the education that's been done, nationally and by the Truth Initiative, and hopefully in our education programs like this module, has shown students the dangers of vaping. But then the reality is addressing those students. Now we went from a discipline situation, maybe a trying and out, to then addressing substance use, substance misuse, which, once again, in our strapped school systems, really not equipped very well to deal with those kind of issues in regards to having the resources and having the capacity. There's some wonderful programs out there with our partners in American Lung Association and partners like the Truth Initiative and Stop Now, and some toolkits that are available, that some districts are realizing that they have to find supports for these students, and finding alternatives to suspension and providing curriculums that don't make it a behavioral consequence, but more of an educational piece. But still, that's really it really manifests itself in trying to address this addiction epidemic is so very difficult. It really multiplies the magnitude of the problem. So the good news, I guess, is the students are maybe possibly trying it less for the first time. The unfortunate news is that we now have the group of students that the administrators report vaping are reporting needing help quitting. So that definitely poses a challenge to us all.
And I mean, I'm just reflecting on the courage that it takes for a teenager to say, this isn't working for me and I need help. And we are going to be hearing from some teenagers later on in the program on just that point. Kim Jamie, thank you for joining us. Can you talk about nationally, how is the demand for vaping prevention curriculum focused at schools and districts? How is that? What are you hearing, compared to other EverFi programs, and how can schools easily access this curriculum, and what kind of reactions and feedback are you getting as well?
Yes, absolutely. Josh, you hit the nail right on the head. So Vaping Know the Truth, this digital vaping preventative curriculum could not be more timely. Just with the conversations that we've been having with our districts across the United States, I know that last year we had 169,000 students using Vaping Know the Truth on roughly 2,000 campuses. So quite a lot of demand for this particular curriculum. And when we're having conversations with our school districts, I can give a couple examples. But for instance, Louisiana, they actually passed a legislation that mandated an anti-vaping course. And they wanted to use Vaping Know the Truth as part of that because it fit that need. Earlier this week, our team in Texas were chatting with a rural district outside of Austin, and the district admin, we were sharing our digital curriculum. The district admin actually said, the moment she saw Vaping Know the Truth, she said, this is what we need. It's such a pervasive problem across our campus. And with that, she described vaping, and stealing her quotes as being so innocuous, or feeling so innocuous, like it's like a bag of chips. So students readily have access to it, and that it also is flavored. It just feels so harmless, when in fact we know the impact of nicotine within vaping. And so this particular district actually wants to train all the teachers, the high school teachers, on Vaping Know the Truth, so that they feel educated on that, and then launch Vaping Know the Truth with their high school students, so that all high school students are going to go through the curriculum, the program. Really, those are two examples of the way that it's been used. But even recently, Red Ribbon Week just passed. And I know in Denver, a particular campus said, we want to embed Vaping Know the Truth in this particular campus, and we want all of our students to use it as a preventative education course. And we also see districts saying, how do we address this vaping issue in a structural way. So can we embed Vaping Know the Truth in our health and PE curriculum, very similar to what Josh had mentioned within sort of a health curriculum? So we see it being used in different capacities, but we hear from teachers, from campus admins, that this is a really huge need, and that, like David mentioned earlier, it feels pervasive within the campus. And then the second question that you mentioned, well, how do teachers access it? There's really two ways. The first way is we have a web-based platform, and that teachers, campus admin can actually go online, go to everfi.com and demo Vaping Know the Truth, create an account and assign this resource to their students at no cost. This component is no cost at them, thanks to funding with the Truth Initiative and Kaiser Permanente. And then also we work with a lot of the school districts across the US. So we might already be embedded in a district's app platform. And so teachers, campus admin can also go through the district single sign-on or app platform and access Vaping Know the Truth there as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I understand that you have some testimonials from teachers who are actually using the program in their classroom.
We know that hundreds of teachers are using Vaping Know the Truth. Let's hear from one.
As a health educator, I feel that the Vaping Know the Truth module does an excellent job of explaining to the students why they shouldn't vape or use a substance that's addictive, such as nicotine. We often tend to just tell students that they shouldn't do something instead of teaching them the why. And I am an advocate as a health educator that we should explain and teach students at an early age how certain negative risk factors affects us on the inside. I've had students in the past that have said to me that they are addicted to nicotine because of vaping, and they wish that they would have learned the aspects of what it did do to us health-wise before they started, and that they would like to quit, and they wish that they could quit, and that they would recommend to anyone in the future to not try it, even though it's the fad thing to be doing now. And with programs like Vaping Know the Truth, then that's a program that we can use as educators to reinforce and help us teach our curriculum.
Wow, it's so valuable to hear directly from teachers about how this curriculum's impacting them. We're in a time when many teachers are more strapped for time than ever. They're sifting through so many materials and tools as they try to make up for learning loss, social and emotional needs of students, their own needs coming back from the pandemic. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about what makes Vaping Know the Truth both unique and effective. So David, if you could, from your perspective, talk about the research that went into this.
Sure, Anya. I think what makes this curriculum really unique is its format. It's a peer-to-peer digital instruction, and it also really amplifies young voices. I also think that schools will really love this course because it's self-led and it's also 100% free. What I like especially about the curriculum is that it also includes a lot of reassuring messages from young people who actually have successfully quit vaping nicotine. And that's really important because vaping is incredibly addictive. It's difficult to kick that habit, and that youth really need to hear from peers who have succeeded in living that nicotine-free life. And unfortunately, it's not just about prevention. It's also about having access to quitting programs that work. That's also really important. So we need to help people who are addicted to nicotine, and that's why this curriculum refers people over to who do vape to this hashtag This Is Quitting, which is a text message program that Robin mentioned. It's already helping about 300,000 youth to stop using e-cigarettes. I think it's also important to know that the curriculum does not engage in, wagging fingers and doesn't blame students for vaping addiction. That's really important. Our approach recognizes that the accountability really lies with the companies that will spend billions of dollars this year aggressively marketing their dangerous and addictive products to youth. That's where the finger needs to go. And I find it really surprising that most people think of tobacco as an adult activity. I'm actually a pediatrician, and I want parents and teachers to understand that smoking really is a pediatric disease. 99% tobacco users start before their 26th birthday, and this doesn't happen by accident. So these products are developed in a manner that appeal to kids and youth, and they are aggressively marketed towards young people at a time when their brain is still developing and when they're also probably at a very high time of becoming susceptible to becoming lifelong addicts. And because that well-funded industry pushes their products into young people's hands, it's important that schools really take a supportive approach to discipline for tobacco violations and avoid taking the punitive approach to disciplining students who violate those tobacco-related policies. And for that reason, Kaiser Permanente and the Truth Initiative do not support suspension or expulsion from school as a punishment for tobacco use, including vaping on school grounds. And so these are really ineffective deterrents, and these policies are often enforced inequitably across the student population. So instead, we really recommend a public health approach for students who violate tobacco policies. They should be approached in a supportive way that focuses on encouraging them and enabling them to quit those tobacco products. And for those students that do repeatedly violate school policy, there are a number of alternative to suspension programs available. It's also, I want to make sure I reiterate that Vaping Know the Truth as a curriculum is not an alternative to suspension program. It's a prevention-oriented curriculum to keep kids from starting vaping and getting addicted in the first place. And it's intended for all kids. And by the way, the model school policies on tobacco use and possession are available to schools free of charge through Kaiser Permanente's Thriving Schools Initiative in partnership with another partner of ours, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. Finally, I just want to say that I think that what makes Vaping Know the Truth such a unique curriculum is the role it plays in movement building. The curriculum motivates students to speak up and become champions, and those kids can then move on and lead the next generation of tobacco-free movements. The unique integration of both the primary prevention and supporting youth who need help with cessation is a package, and it's a holistic approach to America's youth vaping epidemic. It's unique in this field. And we at Kaiser Permanente could not be prouder of this approach.
Just what you said at the beginning is sort of a paradigm shifting quote. So I want to underline it. This idea that nicotine use is a pediatric disease. I think that's something I'm going to take home with me and think about. I want to give some members in the panel a chance to respond to a reaction that I saw coming in on social media about the announcement of this panel, because I think it's something that many parents may think or believe, which is that if you tell kids about vaping, that you're advertising vaping to them, or that you're going to increase the chances that they try it because you're basically saying that this is a cool thing that some people do or that lots of people do. And I wonder if I could get some of the educators in the panel to respond to that, as well as Robin.
I understand why parents might think that, but in the world we live in, where young people are connected constantly, not only to their friends down the street, but their friends all over the planet through social media. I think we have to make the assumption that if parents know about it, their kids know about it, and their kids are having conversations about it. And the sooner you start having honest conversations, and it's not the finger wag or don't let me ever catch you doing this. It's understanding where their knowledge is right now. What do they know? What are they thinking? What are they hearing? And then, finding ways to offer them other information and other facts in a non-judgmental way. I think that's the most important thing to underscore.
Kim, Jamie, do you have any thoughts about that from an educator's perspective?
No, I think Robin, she hit the nail right on the head as well. I think just building that foundational knowledge, that foundational language around vaping is so important to give our students, because they are, with social media, everything that's going on, it just feels like everything is so immersive with our students. They're going to hear about it. Let's make sure that they have the truth.
Well, Anya, I think we've heard this argument before in other areas that relate to how we educate our kids. And certainly the one that comes to mind most immediately is how we teach kids about sex education and how to protect themselves from getting pregnant, as well as getting sexually transmitted infections. That's now an integral part of almost every curriculum in many, many schools. And it has clearly been shown not to promote or increase sexual activity, but instead it reduces pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. I think we need to spend more time talking about how we get these products off the market and regulating their promotion to kids, and particularly flavored tobacco, where we know that these are being promoted specifically to get kids addicted.
So Josh, what are your thoughts about this notion that, by educating kids about vaping, that we're somehow going to put the idea in their heads?
Sure. Thanks, Anya. I think it's critical that we empower students with the accurate knowledge and prevention education or any health related. We want to make sure that we get the right information to students through reliable programs and reliable resources to make sure that they have that accurate knowledge to make the decision about their health. And we don't want them getting the knowledge from possibly their friends or social media or advertising campaigns that likes to push sometimes ulterior motives and different messages. So it's critical in building health literacy that we have those discussions and we provide them these programs, and our teachers provide the knowledge base so then they could take these decisions and make the best decision possible for their health.
I want to thank you all for such a great discussion. And before we leave, we want to make sure that we hear from some of the students who have experienced this program as well.
After this course, I feel like I can help someone who might have an addiction get on the right path for themselves and their future.
It's important to be learning about vaping and its effects because then you realize the damage you're putting the people around you through.
I now plan on quitting and taking better care of my physical and mental health. I started texting "this is quitting" to help me quit.
That's really wonderful to hear. And so in the spirit of offering that help, Robin, can we wrap up by telling our listeners, if they're an educator who wants to support students, a parent who wants to have this conversation with their teen, or a young person who needs help quitting, what resources does Truth Initiative have?
Thanks, Anya. Everything we talked about today, Vaping Know the Truth curriculum, This is Quitting, information on Truth's national prevention campaign is on our website. So they can go to truthinitiative.org. There's also a direct link to Everfi, so teachers can sign up for the curriculum. There's a ton of helpful articles, how to talk to your teen about vaping for parents, what schools and teachers need to know about e-cigarettes and other tobacco products, lots of fact sheets, the connection between youth mental health and nicotine. And of course, you can sign up for our newsletter there as well and continue to get updates. And I also want to make it clear that we talked about This is Quitting a lot. It's available to any young person, not just through the curriculum. It's also free. It's anonymous. Kids can use it on their phone. All they have to do to sign up is text Ditch Vape to 88709, and they can get immediate help. And while This is Quitting is designed specifically for young people, there's also a way for parents to get access and join and receive tips. They can visit becomeanx.org, or they can also text QUIT to 202-899-7550. So there's just a lot of ways to get access to all of it, and all of it's on the website. And then the other thing I would do is also invite young people to visit thetruth.com. That's the Truth Campaign site. They can watch first-person testimonials from others who've quit. We have a lot of TikTok influencers are working with us, many of them who've quit with us and posted about their social journeys to do that. Learn more about vaping as a mental health issue, how to de-stress without turning to e-cigarettes. Our research shows that 93% of young people who vape report feeling less stress after they quit nicotine use. So a lot of great information there. So tons of information. And I guess I'll close by just giving a huge thank you to you, Anya, for such an excellent job moderating today's panel. Of course, to David and Kim Jamie and to Josh and all the teachers and students who've contributed to this discussion. And I also want to thank the thousands of administrators and teachers who are already successfully using Vaping Know the Truth in their classrooms and spreading the word about that. This free resource is available to every educator, parent, student who's interested. Together with Kaiser Permanente, our goal is really to get this curriculum into as many high schools and middle schools as possible nationwide. We want to end this epidemic and make tobacco use and nicotine addiction a thing of the past. And I think if we come together as partners, we can do that.